Even if our latest theory was one of those a bit longer theories I've made, it still appears that there are things that I didn't cover. Nothing too major, but interesting enough to get their own continuation video. There are 3 things I found and want to talk to you about. They don't change anything really from their recent theory, but I still want to cover those things I missed. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, the simplest thing I missed was the fact that it is possible that the red and white Miko from the DIPP story has been illustrated. Note that it isn't confirmed and it is just possible. In the original CD of Dolls in Pseudo Paradise there is this image. If that isn't a shrine maiden, then I must be a 7-legged goat. But straight to the point. When looking back to the story of DIPP, I have every possible reason to believe that this is an illustration about the red and white Miko that appeared in the story, because there has never been any other illustration or picture that would contain this character. So we can pretty safely assume that this is the red and white Miko. And what does this mean to us? Well, basically it means that our hypothesis was correct. The Miko in question is neither PC-98 nor Windows Reimu. Their appearance just differs too much. And just like I said, this Miko in the CD looks much more major than PC-98 or Windows Reimu. But then we get to hop to our next topic, that being the illustrations. You see, Zun likes to make these completely separate illustrations about characters that are not even canon in Touhou or in any other game series. Take for instance this picture. Zun likes to make pictures about shrine maidens that are not canon into Touhou. So how does this mean anything, you may ask? Well, basically this means one thing. These kind of pictures that are not about canon characters still serve one purpose. These pictures are kinda like experiments. Ways to create ideas. For an example, even if this picture is not canon, we can still assume that Zun would most likely be okay with the idea of a blonde shrine maiden, which could suggest that in Touhou it could be possible for one character to have different hair color than their parents. This is because even if this isn't canon shrine maiden, we can still pretty safely assume that it is done into Touhou mold, where all Hakurei shrine maidens are descended from one another. It could mean that Zun is okay with the idea that there are or have been blonde shrine maidens, even if Reimu has brown/black hair. Basically, just makes it easier for us to ignore the sudden hair color changes. Also, one fun thing me and Yamis realized about the Hakurei bloodline in Touhou canon is that there are kinda many shrine maidens in time span of just little over 100 years. 13 to be precise. And I think we've found the answer for why there are so many. You see, the spell card rules that prevent an open battle between Yukai and human occurring have been present only during Reimu's time. None of the other shrine maidens have had this protection brought by the spell card rules. I know I'm straying a bit away from the topic, but bear with me. What I mean with this is simply that even if Danmaku battles with the spell card rules are not meant to be lethal, they can still be lethal, like for instance Remilia or Utsuho. If you lose to them in EOSD or IN, the main character is pretty much dead at that point. But before the spell card rules, this kind of a life-threatening situation was a norm when facing Yukai. So basically it shouldn't be any surprise for the shrine maiden to die at a really young age. And to keep the Hakure bloodline going, they had to get kids before they would die. That's why there are 13 Shrine Maidens in almost 1 century. They didn't have the protection brought by the spellcard rules. But back to the main topic. The one last interesting thing about the story of DIPP is that there are actually parts missing from the story that can be read from the Touhou wiki. Lost in translation, to be precise. There's a whole article about this in the shrinemaiden.org. I'll leave a link to it into the description. It is really interesting. The first thing that has to be changed a little is from the first, well, let's say a chapter in the lack of a better term. There it is said that the first one to die had his head removed from his body. But actually the line goes like this, quote, "I could neither move nor make any sound, as if my head had been separated from my body." So whatever happened, it wasn't as brutal as in the story that can be read from the wiki. The second part, which would require some little altering, is the 6th chapter, where a whole line was left out from the story. In that line, it directly says that the men realized that the Pierrot was among them, which in the end means that the one statement from my recent theory was wrong. The Pierrot, Alice, or the mysterious blonde girl, whatever you prefer, was originally with the 8 men. There are only 8 honest men, but Alice came to Gensokyo with them as the 9th person. This is strengthened by the fact that the first line of this story are told by this mysterious person who seems to be together with the 8 men, but not one of them, and says this exact line. "One day, one of us found a little hole in the peach tree. Yes, that was the day we were lost in this paradise. And right away, I stopped being human." It seems that Alice was originally one of these 8 men. She was from the outside world, and that the story tells about her transformation into Yukai. But before I end this episode, I still think that it is my responsibility to explain the picture I showed in the recent episode a bit better. Because as much as it resembles the nailing part from that DIPP story, there's even more darker twist to that picture. You see, Alice was performing one certain ritual here, that is performed by nailing straw dolls to a holy trees of a shrine. Once the ritual is complete, the person who the straw dolls resemble will be cursed, and the cursed will always be lethal. So, in the other words, in that picture, Alice is trying to get someone killed. We don't know who or why, or is it human or Yukai, and most likely we'll never get to even know. But the point I want to make clear here is that Alice, even if she has been human once, is Yukai. But while every other Yukai take more direct actions to reach their goals, Alice is more like this behind the scenes kind of a Yukai. Oh, and one thing. The ritual that Alice was performing didn't work because Aya saw her, and one of the key elements of that ritual is that if you're seen by someone while performing it, it won't work. So, whoever Alice was trying to kill survived that time. But did Alice finish her job? We might never know. And there was everything I found out about DIPP and everything else regarding it after I had already made the recent episode. You could equate this to the Marisa theory I made after everything I said about Marisa in my 5th theory was proven wrong. But anyhow, I hope that this makes it easier to understand the story of dolls in Suda Paradise. And now, when that's out of the way, we can start to focus on to some new topics. And just one quick note. I said in the ending of my last theory that I would need to get just 2 theories made before I can complete the timeline project I mentioned. I fear that some might have misunderstood it. I meant that there are two important theories I need to complete, but there will be more minor theories made every now and then when I come up with something. But anyhow, this was a continuation theory about DIPP, and now it's your turn to tell me what do you think about it. Did you like it or did you dislike it? Also, if you have any theory ideas, please leave them into the comments. I'd be happy to hear them. But for now, like always, I have to bid you a farewell. My name is Touhou, and we'll see in the next video.